Some of the listeners on this format may not know. Some of them do, but some of them may not. And so you have Congruent Story, and they can jump on Instagram and follow you at Paul J. Daly, or pretty much anywhere. But you're putting out your own podcast and your vlogs and everything. And so I'll say before we get started, if you want examples of arguably anything we're going to talk about today, just jump on Instagram and follow Paul, and you'll see it all played out. But you have Congruent Story. As a company, what are you focusing on with your clients? I mean, I followed the Sun Auto thing pretty closely, and I'm assuming you did most of what I saw, which was amazing.
Oh, thank you.
Were you guys doing a full rebrand there?
Yeah, so we were Congruent Story. We've kind of chopped that down to Congruent, so just Congruent now. Okay. But the handles are all Congruent Story. Yeah. The URL is taken by some company that doesn't really use it. So so we're congruentstory.com. Yeah. We just actually launched a new site today, so it's September 4th or whatever. We just launched a new site today.
Oh, awesome.
So with Sun, basically with that, it was, I have a bit of an automotive background, but it was a complete reinvention of that organization from a branding perspective and a reintroduction to the community because Todd just changed their business model to reflect what people actually wanted. Yeah. And so the challenge there was we have to take this brand that has been so quintessentially, it's a 40-year-old company, right? And for at least the last 10 to 15, it's been the used car king. Right. And it's been Todd's face and Todd's perspective and Todd selling on camera and, Todd being the smart businessman that he is and really attuned to, what the customer demand is, realize that's not what people want in buying a car and the experience. So it was let's reimagine and reinvent what the Sun organization's about. And then let's create a whole new aesthetic, a whole new way of communicating that was not centered around Todd, frankly.
Yeah, right. And so especially those of you that are listening in the area, most everybody around here is familiar with Sun. So if you've seen that transition, most of that's thanks to you guys.
Oh man, that's really cool. And then a lot of that's been done on, obviously there's ads being run and Instagram posts. Right. A lot of stuff, but a lot of fun. There's been a lot of community management that's been a riot. Oh, I bet. And as you can imagine, there's a little bit of pent up animosity around car dealers, right? So, one of the early conversations we had, hey, if we're going to be brave enough to start talking about how people actually feel about the car business as a dealer, well, then you need to be ready to have the conversation publicly. Right. And I think that's one thing that brands often neglect is the fact that they have an opportunity to talk about what people might be frustrated about instead of just ignoring it like it doesn't exist. But guess what? It exists. Right. And if you're the one that talks about it and you're the one that can take some of that, take the pent up aggression a little bit, then you can disproportionately win. Yeah. And I think that's what Todd's doing, frankly.
Yeah. Yeah, honestly, especially for our area, they're doing a great job in just everything, their messaging that they're putting out. And the fact that you could go on, because I was looking at cars around the time you guys were doing that, the fact that you could go on to their website and just get exactly, you could adjust, I'm going to put this much down, I'm going to lease for this long, I need this, whatever, and this was your payment. In an industry, I don't have to tell you this, but.
No, you're right. Yeah, it's what you want.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. And then when you go in the showroom, it's a seamless experience. Whatever you did online picks up right there. Right. There's no haggling, no smoke and mirrors. It really is. And it's not only locally. It's easy to think about that in Syracuse, but I've been at national conferences where Todd's on the stage or on a panel, and people are showing what he's doing with his brand on a national stage, because you'd be surprised. He definitely is willing to be progressive. Frankly, when opportunities come up to work with other industries, especially in automotive, I don't work with anybody who doesn't have really the guts to make that shift. Yeah. Because it takes guts. Yeah. To make the shift. And because Todd's been willing to do that across the country, people look at what he's done and are saying this is the direction we need to go. So it's not just Syracuse. He's really unique even in the country. Very, very small percentage of dealers.
Well, that's kind of so obviously we work with restaurants pretty specifically. That's right. A couple farmers, but talking about that's pretty interesting. I don't know if Todd's selling. I don't know if a local dealership is selling cars out of the area. I'm sure people drive in from an hour or so, whatever it is, but I don't know if somebody in Arkansas is calling up.
No, definitely not.
but yet the reach is kind of out there. I mean, if you're doing the stuff online, your potential reach is everywhere, right?
Yeah.
'Cause people are searching.
You can
stuff.
get there from anywhere. Yeah.
Right. And so that's kind of one of the things like I'm kind of curious about when it comes to building a brand for a local restaurant is how much of it do you put, like, for example, should a local restaurant, start a podcast? Like, what do you think about that?
I think podcasts are a great way to meet people.
Yeah.
Even so, there's this. I've gone through this internal debate, and I know a lot of small business owners specifically. I've been a small business owner for years, worked with tons of them, and there's sometimes an element like, hey, I don't want to be like so self-promoting that it seems like I'm just a self-promoting person, right? And I think the old guard thinks that way. I think the new way of thinking is that whenever I put something out there about myself or my business, but even yourself, right? People want to connect with people. And what you actually have now is an opportunity to connect like you never did before. So putting out a podcast is obviously the medium. Yeah. If you're not romantic about the medium, right? Podcast is a very popular medium right now that is very easily consumed. So should you have a podcast? Probably, right? I hate giving blanket answers. But is that a valid consideration if you're a restaurant or, somewhere that sells food to retail, right? Yes, it's a valid consideration because you can talk about your product, but mostly I would celebrate the community around what it is that I sell. And so if that's, craft beer, then let's talk about craft beer. And that's probably a space where you see it more commonly.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? But even like Glazed and Confused, a great local example.
Yeah.
Right? They have a community with a certain vibe that's around that. So do I think there's a lot of blue sky for Glazed and Confused to put out a really fun podcast about Syracuse that doesn't have to be about donuts?
Yeah.
I do. Right? And that would really cement what I think is the essence of branding, which is you want to find the people like us do things like this, and people like us buy products like this and eat food at places like this. So
and that's kind of, it's funny you bring that up because I was, that's one of the questions is I'm thinking to myself, I have a client who they focus specifically on keto at the restaurant. And so one of the things we did was we started a keto podcast.
Yep.
It's all about keto. And we've had doctors on as guests and a lot of it's just the owner talking. But like for the Syracuse Mets, Tim Tebow comes into town. He's playing on the team. He, is vocal about, he lives, he's all keto for his diet.
Okay.
And so as soon as we found out that Tim Tebow was in town, I ran down to the restaurant with my camera and I was like, we need to get you on video and we need to have you saying, Tim, come down and be on our podcast, be a guest, like get people to share this. And, because she's not self-promoting, doesn't view herself as being self-promoting.
Felt
she
awkward,
didn't
right?
want to do it.
Yep.
She's like, I don't know how I feel about that. It just feels like I'm trying to draw too much attention to myself. And I'm like, we have a podcast where you're talking for 45 minutes.
Something that's meaningful to who is now a local celebrity, not just a national celebrity.
Yeah.
Right. Connecting the dots.
Right. And so, I totally get that. And it is a struggle sometimes to like get people to be kind of that face and to be that voice and be in front of a camera and get on social and do stories and that kind of stuff.
One thing about podcasting though, you don't have to be in front of the camera. Right? Like you and I have a video format, right? Where it's a podcast, but it's also a video, but if it's not, I think that takes away a little bit of the edge.
Yeah.
And another thing that you can do, I think, to hedge if you're not comfortable, like continually pushing the train of conversation and doing that, is you get a co-host or a host.
Yeah.
Right. And somebody that can actually keep the energy going, coach you through it, and prompt you out of it. So I think that's also a big opportunity for people who might not be as comfortable like doing the communication, like usually in the restaurant business, right? Hospitality.
Right.
So like you put a person in front of them and they are connecting, they're caring, right? They build relationships quickly, right around food and the experience, but you put a mic in front of them and there is this barrier that you have to get past that isn't really natural for most people.
Yeah.
So I think that's a valid option, is having somebody to host, and maybe that's even some of the value that you bring already. Is being able to draw some of that out. But obviously the consistent putting content out, like you can't replace that.
Right, exactly. And I'm noticing that part a lot more with the changes at Instagram over the past 3-4 months, I'd say, is that, restaurants hire me, and I mean, there's 100 of me running around Syracuse that do almost the exact same thing for clients. And that is post on mainly Facebook. Unfortunately, too many restaurants in the area are still on Twitter and Instagram, right? It's like those are the three. And it's like a post a day. And engagement has just dropped like crazy on Instagram especially.
Sure has.
It's
across the board.
Yeah. Yes, for sure. I've noticed though, like, so I came from I tested this out with a restaurant I started with 2-3 years ago. And that was putting money behind every post. And still not having a total grasp of ads, but just putting money behind every post and seeing how that directly affected engagement, sure, but it also affected dollars and customers coming into the restaurant in a pretty significant way. I mean, they jumped after the first year pretty significantly. Seeing now on Instagram and, like you said, on Facebook, even with boosted posts, the engagement has just dropped. And so, like, I'm sitting here thinking to myself, all right, a post a day doesn't work. Even just replying to comments now that you get on Instagram isn't working. Like, you have to you have to go out and do exactly what Gary Vee's been saying for the past, how many years.
It's forcing you to be actually social.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I mean, the comments that I'm on there, on Instagram, just going through Syracuse and just commenting on people's posts.
Yeah.
Because you have to do that stuff. And I guess, I'm curious your thoughts on should a local restaurant see like the drop in engagement and just start sitting on Instagram and popping out comments on others, just being that involved in the community? Or should they, or maybe it's a both, or should they just kind of spread out their brand across multiple platforms? Like, is it enough to focus and be 100% on Instagram and just be the best that there is in the area with it? Or do you also have to just spread yourself across Facebook and TikTok and podcasting and YouTube?
Well, the principle of not creating friction for your audience is real. So there is also, posting content wherever the attention is and not making them have to work to get to it, right? If you just go Instagram, you're like, well, then I'm only targeting the percentage of the population or potential, customers that are on Instagram. You're making that decision. On the flip side, like spending time, energy, money on Twitter, and Instagram and Facebook or TikTok or Snapchat, right? Or on your website or a blog or a podcast.
Yeah.
There's only so many hours in a day.
Right.
And so like finding out where the low hanging fruit is and where you get the best ROI in your time. Look, small business owners in general, restaurateurs in general, more specifically, like are busy. So it's like trying to measure that ROI, where is it actually, is a really difficult thing to do. Like you said something great in the sense where like, hey, we were able to link the dollars spent on posts back to dollars spent in the store.
Yeah.
Which without that, everything else is just vanity metrics. Like if you just hit the boost button on your post, right? What's actually happening, and you know this already, but some of you out there might not understand, when you just hit boost post, right? You're getting kind of the worst of the attention that's left, right? Because if you think about it this way, Instagram and Facebook, they have one asset as a company, and that is the attention of the viewer, right? So all they have is our attention when we log in. It's the only thing they have of value. So they can only show me so many ads before I get disinterested and they lose my attention and I bounce to a different platform. They're constantly trying to find that balance. Yeah. Now what happens is they're selling ads to companies saying, okay, well, I always say marketing's an interruption, right? So they're selling interruptions to what I actually want to see. Yeah. And so if they're going to sell an interruption, then they need to make sure that it's something I care about. And so you pay the most money for the most specified audience. Now, if whatever's left over, so say like, hey, I'm going to show Anthony 5 in-stream promotions, per 100 posts or whatever the metric is. Yeah. So I only have 5. And once the companies that are targeting, a guy your age that lives in Syracuse that likes these things, once all those people have gotten their spot and there might be one spot left and it might not be something that's really relevant for you, and you hit boost post, you get that last spot.
Yeah.
So like for you, tying that back to a business objective
Right.
really makes sense.
Yeah.
And to kind of wind it all the way back, like putting your dollars where they make the most sense, but also putting your time and attention on the platforms that make the most sense. So should it just stay on Instagram? I don't know. Maybe you're getting amazing traction. Look, any company that does anything amazing,
right,
you're going to get seen.
Yeah.
Right? Like it always goes back to that. Do something that's really great and people are going to find out about it.
Is it kind of, do you think it's following the demographics? Like, for example, I know from looking for Eat Local's social pages, I know that, you know, I'm most popular on Instagram amongst women 25 to 34.
Yep.
In Baldwinsville and Liverpool.
Yep.
And, you know, if I want to go after teenagers, you know, if I want to go over, 15, 16, 18-year-olds, I should be on TikTok. Do you think it's, for a restaurant, it's kind of identifying, okay, Glazed is probably going to get a lot of the, suburbs, parents in the suburbs coming in. So we're going to focus heavy on Facebook and not put as much attention into TikTok and Instagram as we do Facebook. You think is that a smart approach to it for a restaurant, or you think it's just going with like where you have the best community engagement?
Community engagement is great because that's when people share.
Yeah.
Like back to Instagram, like what's hacking the algorithm right now? It's people sharing stuff and like being able to say like, hey, getting people to share your post on their story. Yeah. That's going to bump the relevancy way, way up. So actually it's something that I'm just starting to pay a little bit of attention to and saying, like, hey, how can we bring value to making that happen?
Yeah.
So if people start sharing, you have community, like you're going to get reach. But yeah, like what demographic are you trying to reach? If you're trying to reach a 40 plus demographic, Facebook's your spot.
Yeah.
If you're not, then, I think Glazed and Confused could have an amazing TikTok account.
Yeah.
Why? Because that business is about dancing and having fun and being kooky and creative. Like, it was made for that. Yeah. But how many 13-year-olds are wandering their way downtown on a Saturday morning?
Although, it always reminds me of when I was in the mattress and furniture industry, one of the heads of Tempur-Pedic, this mattress company, told me one of the smartest things that they ever did was they were running ads on Nickelodeon and the Disney Channel like 20 years ago, knowing that when these kids grew up and they went to buy a mattress when they were like 25, 30,
That's why Gary's making like kids cartoons right now.
Right, exactly.
Jeez, I don't know how many people have that level of either time, resources, or vision to do that. Right? Like how many restaurants are making 10-year plans?
No, well, for my clients I keep asking them, what do we do in 6 months in a recession?
Well, right.
Right. I haven't lived in this industry through that. I barely remember. I had my own furniture store I owned in 2008, and all I really remember from it is that it went under. I don't really remember why. I was 21 years old. I wasn't paying attention to anything.
Yeah.
And so I haven't lived through this industry in a hard time. Yep. And so I don't know how things really get affected, but I keep asking my clients, like, okay, where are we at financially? Like, we need to start thinking about this now. So what are we going to do in 6 months when a third of our customers stop going out to eat?
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, like kids do have, now I'm thinking about it a little bit deeper. Kids do have a lot of pull over the purchasing decision, especially when it comes like to donuts. Yeah. And like where we're going for lunch.
Right.
Right. So like granted, if Glazed and Confused starts a great TikTok account and the middle school and high school crowd really dig it. Yeah. Then it's like they want to go to the place and make their own TikTok video at the place that makes the cool TikTok videos, right? And so are the parents going to go there? Yeah, they're going to go there. So like maybe there is a play there. Yeah. I mean, there's a thing, obviously on Facebook, at Facebook, Instagram, right? We have the advantage of if we have an email list, right? And I think maybe that's an opportunity for restaurants because restaurants do have the ability to get email addresses for like reservations and, specials and offers. It's a balance, right? Because if you're getting an offer every week from your restaurant, you're probably unsubscribing. Yeah. Right? That's why like maybe a podcast and some other content. But you have that email address, like then you can really target, like audiences, and maybe you can expand your reach that way. Yeah.
I mean, I'm assuming, I don't know if you do or not, but it seems like you do. And that is kind of some of your strategies on social are coming from obviously what Gary's saying, what Gary's putting out there, which is like consistent content. Do you think it's better, like, for if I hold off Instagram for like 3 or 4 days and put out a post, I will notice that one post will get more engagement than if I post 4 times a day. And by engagement, I'm talking about, we're talking about likes and comments. So I don't know what it turns into for that restaurant.
You know why?
Why?
You get that?
I don't know.
Because Instagram's afraid they're going to lose you.
Really?
So they want you to get a taste, right? We get a dopamine hit when we get attention.
Yeah.
When we get the likes and the engagements, and when you start to withdraw from that, Instagram, that crowd gets really nervous. Oh my gosh, is he spending his time on TikTok?
Wow.
Right? So it's like, that's why you've seen like, hey, this person hasn't posted in a while. That's what drives that.
Oh, wow.
Because they're like, oh, hey, let's keep you in the ecosystem. Right? Lets people who may have missed you or it's a little fresh for them because they're seeing 3 posts from everybody else.
Right.
Right. And that's what drives that. It really is a gamed system designed to keep you stuck to it.
Yeah.
Right. So you're like, oh, well, maybe I'm curious that like if you started making a post every 4 days, you wouldn't get that anymore.
That's pretty interesting. I haven't done that in probably 2-3 months.
Yeah.
But
I should try that.
Yeah. I went on this thing of, I'm so used to going out to eat, taking a picture on my phone or my camera. And just throwing it up there really quickly, and even unedited. And I still, for the most part, don't edit anything and put it out there.
I'm just kidding.
I know. I have the Lightroom app. I even have the little, cable thing to plug in my SD card right in my phone, so I can get it. Up pretty quickly.
off the camera. Yeah.
But I've suddenly stopped posting while I'm there, and if I know I don't have enough images, like I have 16,000 pictures on my phone of food. I've probably posted all of them. Right. So if we went out to eat Sunday and took a picture of fish and chips at Coleman's, with a pint of Guinness, I know that's going to convert well. But I'm like, I'm not putting this out right now. I'm gonna wait until I get till I need it 10 more images, and then I'm gonna buffer them for the entire week, and I'll be good. So. So I'm doing more stuff like that. So I'll get a couple of days between posts if I just buffered out for a day and I'm done for a week. But I was trying that for about a month. I was putting out 3 posts a day, morning, noon, and night. I wasn't really caring too much about the times anymore like I used to because I just don't think it matters as much. But I was just throwing this stuff out there, and I noticed that engagement shrunk like crazy. I mean, it went from 200 or 300 likes down to like 50 or 60.
Because you're putting so much out?
Yeah. And it makes sense of what you just said because that's what they're doing. If I wait,
less people are seeing it, and there's probably and also an parallel rail is probably just like I'm less interested. Yeah, I'm seeing more from you, pictures of food. Right now, I'm going to be a little stingier with my like or my comment or my engagement. Yeah, because I've just seen a lot of it. Right, so it's probably a combination of the both. Yeah. But for sure, you get an algorithm boost when you haven't posted for a while. And like, oh, great, you're not gone. Let's keep you here. Let's get you a little excited about being here again. Oh, well, maybe something's changing me that now I'm just better. Right. Yeah, right. Sure. Oh, wow, I'm just better. I must be better. Could be anything else.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
So they have human behavior down to a science.
Oh yeah, for sure, man. And it's like I think about that with Gary all the time, like the sport card thing. I'm like, well, of course, sport cards are going to take off. You're talking about it. Like, there's millions of people that are doing what you're telling them to do. Yeah. I can't, I would love to have that.
It's amazing to have that influence over like a niche. Yeah. Right. But that's the nature of influencers, right?
Listen, I bought 2 full packs of the Topps cards, man.
Oh, the ones with the Gary Vee edition? It's funny. I almost bought one. I haven't bought. My son and I have a box of all my old like baseball and basketball and football cards. Yeah. And we were looking in there like my Barry Sanders rookie cards and like all these great ones. And so I was like, I was into cards as a kid and I used to have the Beckett. So like there is something nostalgic that triggered when like just seeing Gary do that has made me be like, I like Gary and we've spent some time together. Yeah. But it's just that one specifically, it's just like his boyhood dream just came true. Like he's and for someone who has as much going as he does, like that was really special. And I almost bought it. I didn't quite get there, but I felt really good for him.
It's one of it worked. I love nothing more than eat local. It's pretty easy. It's more satisfying because if I put a post out and I'll get those Shopify notifications and so I'll do a story, I'll put an email out, this weekend, and it had a 25% open rate and like a 10% click-through rate. I was like, holy cow, which that's sad, but that's also great.
No, I get it.
But
it's legit.
It converted into 3 sales, and I love that stuff. It's harder for a restaurant where I don't know if that person just came in off that post or not.
Right.
I know you got to go, and so I'm just going to ask one question.
Yeah.
One more question, and I get
a little time.
If you owned a restaurant, could be anywhere, but let's just say because we're in Syracuse, it's in Syracuse.
Okay.
You're a restaurant owner. Even with your experience and knowledge and background in what you do and branding and storytelling, what would you be doing right now?
I would definitely be putting out content. Start there. I think I would find out, talking about branding, right, which is probably the thing I talk most about these days. It really is cultivating the feeling people get when they interact with you in some way, when they think about you in some way. And it's going to be different for every business, and even businesses in the same space. It's going to be different, right? The Adidas people and the Nike people affiliate with those brands for different reasons, right? Yeti coolers, we all know that no cooler is worth $700, right? The ice just isn't that much colder, but Yeti is a fashion brand.
Yeah.
It's not a cooler brand. I was speaking to somebody, and very successful business owner, and he was like telling me how he will not let his wife buy a Yeti cooler because it's ridiculous. He's like, I'll buy more ice. He goes, I don't need it to last 2 weeks. I need it to last a day, right? The Coleman will help it last for a day. I was like, but they've done a good job at convincing your wife she's more fashionable with a Yeti cooler, right? And so I would be looking for the things that make my business fashionable, and I don't mean apparel, right? If you can get it into apparel, like that's cool, right? But beyond that, like what does it say about me? Because I say brand isn't just the feeling. Brand is actually a reflection of your own values back at you, right? So I would figure out what it is that the people I want in my restaurant, is important to them, and I would find a way to make my restaurant a reflection of those values. So it could be family, it could be fun, it could be elite and fancy, it could be value. Right? Hey, they get the most food for the least money, right? That's a value. Like Walmart, if you read through Walmart's brand guide, they really identify 2 key personas. One is the person that has the money to buy the more expensive stuff, but they see it as a value, right? Why would I pay more money if I can get it cheaper at Walmart? So we're targeting those people, saying like, hey, you have the money. You could buy it somewhere else, but it's really important to like spend that other money somewhere else. That's a persona. The other persona is the people who need to make that dollar stretch as far as possible because it's life and death. Because it's a matter of having or have not, And so Walmart does a good job at identifying those. Restaurant business, I would do the same exact thing. Why do people find it value? Right? Is it all those things? Fun, fancy, value, convenience, whatever, the neighborhood it's in, right? I'm just cooler because I'm eating in this neighborhood. Whatever it is, I would find that, and I would talk about that on the content. I would talk about, now you have to have a good base product. Like we look at Rise and Shine, right? Rise and Shine is a great example of a full offering that goes from it's little kid food for big people, basically, and everybody's friendly, and they have a 3-hour wait. Which is really frustrating and annoying, but they always have a 3-hour wait.
We went up there Sunday, the new spot on Westcott, and it was a 45-minute wait, you know? And, we wound up going across the street because of that. But yeah, I could have the story wrong. If you're listening and I have this wrong, forgive me, but I believe the story goes that Rise and Shine on Thompson was there, not doing well, about to go out, and then started doing these Instagrammable things and went all in on that, and it took off.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I think I will say this, I think it's right. Way back, to bring it all the way around full circle to the beginning of our conversation, the Caputo family,
Yeah.
I think his grandfather maybe,
Okay.
there was some level of involvement back in the day.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, but Rise and Shine, I ate there like once, like 6 years ago.
Yeah.
And it was like,
Yeah.
It was like, okay.
Yes.
It's a diner food.
Yeah.
Coffee's what I expect. The eggs are what I expect. The price is what I expect.
Yeah.
And I never went back.
Right.
And then I tried to go back after like people are telling me like Rise and Shine. I'm like, Rise and Shine.
Yeah.
Like the juxtaposition of that. I was talking to my producer, Pat, and he also directs a lot of our marketing strategy. And we were talking about this podcast coming up. And he's like, hey, how about the dough place in the mall? He goes, took my daughter to Build-A-Bear the week it opened.
Yeah.
He goes, and I couldn't get in Build-A-Bear because there was a line at the dough place, right? And everybody went because it was awesome and it seemed really cool.
Yeah.
It wasn't that good. It was 2 weeks. And now I was just telling him I was at the mall on Monday. And the Auntie Anne's line, which is near there, was like 30 people deep going in front of the dough place. And the dough place had a lock on the door because the one person that was working there on Labor Day weekend, when everybody else was busy, had to take a break.
Wow.
And no one looked like they miss it.
Yeah.
Right. So the core offering has to be great.
Yeah, for sure.
But then like the Rise and Shines.
Yeah.
And we'll see what happens with them. Are they going to get a bigger spot?
I know, right? Yeah.
Right. Get a bigger spot so they can fit more people. Then the recession hits, right? Or just right at the right time.
Yeah.
Like who knows what that is, but what's their actual capacity? But
Yeah.
they have good problems right now.
I know they do. Listen, I go in. I mean, I kind of have to, but I went in there and spent $12 on one of those milkshake or hot chocolate, whatever. I didn't even eat or drink the thing. I only bought it for the picture, and I have to. But there's tons of people out there that are just doing it for themselves.
Oh yeah, and when they go out there, right? Everyone's posting it.
Yeah.
Why? Because that's where they found out about it.
Yeah, for
and that
sure.
it makes them feel special.
And that's what I love about, like I think about restaurants who do it well in the area. And they don't so much anymore, but especially when they first opened, Original Grain and XO did it well. I mean, not only were they creating spaces in their restaurants for people to take pictures. I mean, I don't know if you've been to XO Taco before.
I have.
That neon lip wall with
it's
the greenery.
Awesome.
I'm never going to take my picture in front of that thing.
Yep.
But the fact
you've
that they
seen it
have
in a lot of pictures, haven't you?
And now they have content.
Yeah.
They have content, and OG did that from day one.
Yep.
They had content from people.
Because people that eat there regularly, they feel like it says something about their level of cool, frankly.
Yeah.
Right? Whether it's health or whether that's style, attitude,
Yeah.
it says that and they connect with it.
So if you have time, I'm just going to ask one question.
Yeah, go for it.
And that is, if a restaurant's starting a brand, does it have to be about their food? Like, could a restaurant start a YouTube show that is about, I don't know, money management or anything like that if their name is getting out there?
I think it has to connect at some point.
Okay.
Like you could,
Yeah.
but the path back. Now, if it's a one person,
Yeah.
right, and there's one personality and that person is starting a restaurant but is also passionate about fitness. Like look at Eric Hinman, right? We're talking about OG, right?
Yeah.
So very passionate about fitness
Yeah.
and entrepreneurship and was a big part of starting a restaurant and at least getting a lot of the momentum behind it.
Yeah.
Right? That works.
Yeah.
Why? Because it's Eric.
Right.
But if it was like Original Grain starting a podcast about fitness, right?
Yeah.
That still is at least close.
Yeah.
But if it was about money management, not so much.
Right.
So it does have to be a parallel rail.
Okay.
But I do think that like the keto conversation we had.
Yeah.
Right? If the restaurant features keto, like what's that new 110 grill in the mall?
Right.
In Destiny.
Yeah.
Right? Very friendly to gluten-free, very friendly. Everything's made from scratch. The allergen specific. I went in with my family and they were like, hey, if it's got any kind of gluten-free or like it gets toothpicked, only the manager will carry it out. Right? Like, so for them, starting something about what it's like to eat when you have allergies or gluten allergy, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's cool. That works.
Yeah.
Right? They don't have to talk about the burgers. They don't have
Right.
to talk about, right? People just trust them. So I think it can be a parallel thing, but there has to be quality content.
Yeah.
And I think if it's just about the food, people won't listen. So
Yeah.
I would say like just making it about your food is a big mistake.
Yeah.
Big mistake.
Yeah.
What is the food? How does the food work its way into the lives of other people? I mean, that's our strategy in automotive.
Yeah.
It's our strategy in everything we do. But in automotive is connected to just about every area of a suburban life.
Yes.
Right? When you get into big cities, not as much, right? Because people aren't buying cars. But out here, every area. So what do you want a story tell around? I don't know. Pick something. Birth of a new baby, buying your first home, getting married, going on a college trip. Like, you think about it, going to work, going to record a podcast. Right. You think about it, you need your car to do it. Therefore, that car connects to a human being that connects with something they're doing in their lives. Find a way to connect the dots through the product. Yeah. So if all I talked about was burgers every week, it'd be great for a week. Yeah. And then I'd eat a burger, and then I'd want to hear about something else.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for taking the time.
Thanks for having me, man. This place is great, and I'm a big fan of yours.
First podcast in the new space.
I'm honored.
So, yeah, there it is.
Sign the desk.
Thanks, Paul.
Thanks, Anthony.